I've often realized for myself that if we can't love everything, there's a question mark in our level of spirituality. Just want to throw that out to you because my understanding of our spiritual completion is our ability to love everything and everyone, even if it's not what I like. And I think that's the big opportunity, or that could be the big test paper, that we have developed such a level of thinking now that we believe in the power of choice, and we can sometimes push people or situations away based on a feeling, not on a principle. We sometimes push people away based on a feeling, not on a principle. And I think it's important for us to understand this, because you and I are going to do things slightly different, because maybe our perception or our interpretation of certain situations, it is different. It is different. But when my feelings are hurt, or my feelings feel disregarded or disrespected, and then I choose to no longer love you, then that feeling sits in my heart and grows almost like a parasite, almost like a disease. It grows inside without me even knowing that it's growing, because of an event, a circumstance, a situation. I was just having a meeting with somebody and she just stormed out of the room. I'm not talking to you because this is about you. And in my heart, I was just speaking to the person to actually assist them, because I've noticed their spirituality, they've taken another turn in their spirituality. And whenever I get a touching in the morning, because I get up 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, when God gives me a signal in the morning, He says, please talk to them so that they feel comfortable and that they're okay, or they're just going to be in a delusional state. And I followed my direction today, right? And I spoke to two of them. One stayed with a lot of respect. They were very open. They wanted to know what was happening, what was going on. And the other one is like, I'm not sitting here listening to any more of this. And just stormed out. Now, I have to tell you, I haven't had that done in decades. So it was interesting to just watch it like, okay. All right, now I know why I had to sit to talk with you, because I wanted to spiritually see what we could take care of here. So the point that I'm making here is, even though scenes happen, my motives weren't there for anything negative. And I think one of the reasons for us allowing certain things to sit in the heart and fester there is unknown to you and me, that I really wasn't clear on my motive as well. Because if my motive is clean, then despite what your reaction is to my presence in your life, it shouldn't affect me, because I'm coming from a base principle. If my base principle was benevolence, self-respect, accommodation, acceptance, or love, then even if it doesn't turn out the way that I wanted, my base principle should protect my heart from getting disturbed. So I want you to sit and think about that. How many times have you been in a situation where you knew, even without your ego thinking being a part of the conversation, you just knew you were just helping? And the reaction you got was like, I don't really care, and you're like, it's okay, just leave them alone, that's just how they are. You notice how it didn't faze you? Have you ever had those moments? Okay, so remember those moments where it just didn't faze you, what they said or how they said it or didn't say it. It's like, okay. If you can recall where you were inside, how you were feeling, perhaps you were in a place where your principle was really feeling good for you. You were in a good place for you. And then another scene emerges, and you, in your mind, you might be, I went out of my way and I did this for you, and look at how you returned the favor. And then we project on the person that you should have given me back the payment of the energy that I just gave to you. And the fact that I don't feel good now that you've given me the return in such a negative way, I'm not going to talk to you for a while. So the thing that we miss is where we were sitting inside of ourselves when I chose to help you. And this is something that many of us have missed in our journey. Have you ever given money with the right hand and begin to take interest with the left? Okay, that principle is what still makes us shake. You're either going to give or not. You're either going to give or not. But when we're giving and wanting to receive, there's room for fluctuation or issues or emotional baggage coming with us on the journey. And that is something that we miss a lot. We miss it so much because being honest with the self is not always the easiest practice. Again, how many times have we gone out of our way to do something for someone and they reacted in a way that it wasn't pleasing to my spirit, and then I get upset and I say, after all I did for them, this is what you give me back in return, and then we don't talk to them anymore. And the best thing that happens sometimes, we call up another friend, did you hear what just happened? And we start to tell them our interpretation of what we think just took place. Do you know what I did? And I just did not even have to do this. And I went out of my way, and this is what they did. And none of that conversation had anything to do with checking. But by the way, what was your motive for doing it? What was your intention? Did you want them to like you? Did you want them to respect you? Did you want them to give you something in return? Did you want them to give you a promotion at work? Did you want something from them? That's the giving and the taking. So it's, my motive is mixed. And when I don't pay attention to what my intentions are behind my choices, what happens is that I set myself up for fluctuation of spirit, fluctuation of emotions, the fluctuation of my interpretation of that scene, and I set myself up for becoming the holder or the possessor of an event in a circumstance that was unpleasant to me, and I took it personally. And in taking it personally, again, the heart gets more and more dirty. Because every time somebody brings up the person's name, or I smell a perfume that the person used to wear, or I hear a song that we used to love, or they happen to just have passed me by my cubicle, all of that pollution of my heart comes up, and it could be just for a millimeter of a second. Comes up for like, oh, there they go again. 5-10 seconds later. And then you go, hey, hi John, how are you? And it almost becomes a pattern to not pay attention to ourselves anymore. Being unaware to what these emotions and feelings are doing for us. So today I wanted us to just have an intimate conversation about how important is it for us in this room to have a clean heart. How important is it for us to have a clean heart, to cultivate a clean conscience? How important is it for you? On a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest, and just privately, have your moment to just sit in that state. Like, how important is it for you? How important is it for you to cultivate a clean heart, a clear conscience? What would be the benefit of that? What would be my life's benefit if my heart was clean and my conscience was clear?
Be egoless.
How would life unfold for me?
React to things.
I think these are the important questions that we've got to begin to ask ourselves. Because it takes us always towards what is it that I must do to clear out my spirit. In our morning class today, we offer a meditation class every morning at 6 or 7, 6 o'clock during the weekdays and 7 o'clock on the weekends. And the conversation was really based on, to what extent am I really being truthful and honest and open with my own spirit, so that we can clear out the atmosphere, keep the atmosphere clean and clear. But mostly, to what extent have I gotten in my own way because of holding a lot of negative experiences and feeding those negative experiences so much that it has dominated what I'm called to really do at a higher level. I have encountered individuals who had a lot going for them, and they've allowed one scenario with a person ruin everything good for them. It can happen in our marriages. It could happen in our relationships with one another, partners. It could happen at work. Everything is great, but that one time, that person was in a state of interior denial or interior ignorance. And they came out with me or to me without any values or virtues or thought about what's the consequence of this choice. And all they did was to make a decision that was only serving themselves without thinking about me at all. How many of us have encountered a friend, a relative, a contact, an associate who's been like that towards us? I think every single one of us in this room, right? How many of us sitting here can honestly say, I too have been in that position? That I didn't think about the person's feelings when I was about to say what I said. I was only thinking about the intensity of conveying my ego and my anger, and how important it was for me to let the other person try to feel I'm in authority here. Isn't that interesting? So, sitting in the meditation museum and coming to a conversation on cleaning the heart, try to use this one word bold. Feel free to take out a pen and paper, your phone, make sure your phone is on silence. I'd like you to highlight in one word, truthfulness. Just to be truthful with your own self. For some cultures, it's easier than others. For some of us in the West, it tends to be a little bit more easier to be straight up and upfront. And some of us from the East tend to try to be a little bit more diplomatic, to not hurt somebody's feelings, even if our feelings are being hurt. But let's just look at truthfulness as a virtue. Question. What would be the result of my life if I was truthful in my thinking? What would be the result of my life if I was truthful in my thinking? Now, I'm not saying perfect in my thinking, I'm just saying truthful in my thinking. That means I can be dirt wrong, but I'm truthful. I am dirt wrong. So what would be the result of that level of truthfulness in my thinking? How would you feel if you began to embody this one virtue every day in your life when it's projected towards your thoughts? Interesting, right? I don't know how many of you are married, or if you have in-laws living with you, or visitors that have come and way stayed over their visit, right? And you have to cook or prepare for them. And truthfully, I don't want to cook for these people. But you cook anyway, and you smile, and in the back of your mind, you're like, oh God, when are they going to leave? Oh Jesus, right? So what's happening is, if you're not being truthful in the midst of that scene, that self-deception will become a trap. I'll explain. So once again, I'm going through the motions of doing what I'm supposed to do. I have to cook for my mother-in-law. I don't like her. She's such a pain. But I'm like, hi, Mommy. And I give her like that. But I'm not paying attention to the fact that my thoughts, really, if I'm honest, I would tell my thoughts, honestly, I don't want to be doing this. She treats me like a slave. She's so disrespectful to me, and I can't take anymore. But you know what? Nothing lasts forever. And I wonder, what is it that this soul is teaching me? And at what point do I gain my power that no one, absolutely no one, should have more power over me, that I lose my own peace? That's when you apply truthfulness to your thinking. So when you apply that quality of thinking, and you apply that virtue behind your thinking, what you will experience as a result of that is a kind of inner freedom and dignity as a person. And as you begin to amplify more experiences of feeling internally dignified and internally free, you become more knowledgeable. I might not be able to physically change the situation, but I do have the ability to change the way I need to feel in this situation, because it's not changing quickly. I'm not going to divorce her son, or I'm not going to divorce her daughter just because she's cruel to me. And so how do I work this through? How do I sort out the way I'm seeing this? That's having a truthful conversation with the self. That's where you bring truth behind your thought forms. So when you're putting the food on the table and she's still telling you the chapatis are cold or the food doesn't have any salt, and she's snarling at you, you would look at her, you would check how you're feeling, and you'd be like, okay, you want me to warm it up? Now that sounds easier said than done, because you're not going to be perfect in that scene all the time. But I'm talking about the times when you really can do that. They will count. Because there are times when you will be able to deal with her like that, or him, and it will count. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because if I'm going to build a clean heart, and if I'm going to build a personality within myself which has dignity and grace, I'm going to need practice. And so they will keep giving me an opportunity to practice on me. So sometimes you'll find you're going to do great, and then there are other times that you're going to be like, oh, I really do need to practice more truthfulness in my personality. Whenever there's any duality influencing my intentions, there will be an issue. Whenever there's duality influencing my intentions, there will be an issue. Either it will never be enough, it'll never be enough, or I was actually like, I won't accept what you gave me. It was really not enough, because the duality in my thinking, in my intention, basically is setting me up either for this feeling or that feeling. So whenever I have duality in intention, what basically it's going to set me up for is the possibility of fluctuation of emotions. Now you and I don't know what will be the result of the circumstance that I might find myself in. It could be that the circumstance was ugly, but I was very positive, because somehow all the stars, all the vibrations in my being was lined up in a very positive way. I was in a good place that day. But then what about those days when I'm not in a good place? And then what comes back to me is a negative response, a negative feeling. And I feel hurt, I feel ashamed, I feel ignored, I feel disrespected, I feel taken advantage of, taken for granted. And then I start to own those feelings, and again, the heart continues to get more and more dirty. You see? So, even if I keep applying this one word in my thinking, let me be truthful with my thinking. Let that be my private agenda. Let that be mandatory and not an option. What would be the result? What would be the result? Because you and I have been in enough situations that no matter what's happening outside of us, we've not been able to change it. How many times have you and I been as nice as we could possibly be for other people to change, and they've just carried on showing you exactly who they are? How many times have you done it? How many times have you sacrificed keeping your mouth shut at work because your manager, your supervisor, or your boss, really, when you look at the way they treat you, they don't see your value or your worth, but because you've got that mortgage to pay, you shut that mouth and you don't say a thing to them? How many times? But you walk away not feeling good, and even to go to work in the morning is a burden. And you only go to work because I've got bills to pay. Now, the thought doesn't come, you know what? I wonder if there's another job for me. You know, because then the thought will come, well, you know what, if I just do 5 more years, I'll get pension. Let me hold on just for another few more years. And if I start over, then it's going to be this and the, you know, we give ourselves so many excuses and reasons why we're supposed to be where we are, even though I don't feel happy. And so when my heart isn't clean, it sometimes allows me to accept dirt, because that's what's sitting in me if I've not been truthful. I'll give you a personal story. About 2 years ago, I'm very passionate and compassionate about the well-being of our world, and in particular the well-being of this land here that I'm in service to, a land that I've been living in for the past 47 years. So I've been raised in this land. I wasn't born here, but I've been raised here for 47 plus years. And for whatever it's worth, I don't know the complete recording that's sitting in my memory track as a soul on my journey fully as yet. It is an unfolding that will happen to you, it'll happen to me. As we age and grow older, we gain more wisdom as to who we really are, if we're paying attention. So when I was witnessing a lot of negativity in at the global level of public conversation to the world. When I was witnessing the way a man would speak to a woman who seems experienced despite whoever she is or however people interpreted her personality. The way that certain messages are given to the masses in this country. The kind of dog whistling that's taking place in Indian culture. We say this is a private meeting in the public. In other words, only those who belong to this group know privately what I'm saying, even though the public is like, oh, that's such a great idea. But the group that's privately is like, oh my God, I know they're talking exactly to me. So that's like dog whistle, right? So witnessing all of this dog whistle and being aware of a lot of negative energy that's coming through, I observed myself becoming almost paralyzed. Emotionally, spiritually, physically. Now, I'm somebody who has been gifted with a lot of information and knowledge and abilities, and yet I could honestly observe that my heart had become polluted, not in the context of the judgment as such of a person, but in the context of the disillusionment of our humanity. And that's a judgment, but in a different category. And even if you and I have disillusionment about a country, a culture, a race, a religion, it is still pollution of heart. And it is so deeply connected to your soul's heritage. If you're like me and you believe that the soul has been here before, and the soul is playing other parts, have played other parts in the past, then even what I'm feeling today might not just be of today, but a legacy that my soul is carrying from previous births. And it still hurts. Let me clarify that for those who might not believe in having more than one birth, and for those who believe I only have one life and that's where I'll stay put. A friend of mine that I work with for many years shared with me, and I'm just not a new agey person. I don't believe in things very easily. You can't convince me of stuff very quickly. I don't care how good the package comes. I need some content, I need an experience, I need for it to feel truthful to my spirit. So we're sitting in the dining room, and she's sharing with me, you know, I went to this mystic, and she told me I was carrying 6 generations of burden of my Judaic race, my Judaic tradition. And I sat and I'm accommodating. Oh, okay, that's good. And I'm like, that is like ridiculous. No one can carry 6 generations of some karma of some other culture that they're now in. That was my personal, private, interior judgment call. Would you believe, about 5 months later, I found myself gaining insight from that conversation. And here's how it went. Looking at you, please fix this for us. You are the anointed one to do this for us. And then your life is taken untimely, and the world loses hope, and you are leaving your body and going, but I didn't finish. Does that soul take rebirth carrying the burden? I didn't finish what I started. So when it sees injustice, when it sees good people staying silent, when it sees power being corrupted and abused, how does that disturb your spirit? Does that make any sense to you? So it took me back now to what my friend said to me at dinner. I was carrying the burden of 6 generations. And so sometimes in our hearts, we begin to carry the pain not only of what my mother-in-law is saying to me or doing to me, or my supervisor, or my boss, or my spouse, or my child, or my relative. I'm not just carrying the pain or the pollution of heart just because of your attitude towards me, but I'm realizing the pain is exceedingly intense, more intense than what this little situation did to me. And so why I think that the age that we're in is such an age of a truthful conversation with our spirits. We're in an age of needing to have God's companionship with us at every step that we take. We're in an age where we need to begin to galvanize people in our lives who are our confidants, not contacts. People that we can deeply trust and begin to find the strength and the courage needed to heal our broken hearts or to heal our polluted hearts. And that's going to require, again, a lot of truthfulness with my thought form. Because we are carrying, some of us, the burden of perhaps a lot of unresolved issues of my past. It makes no sense we can get so upset over a tiny thing. Tiny thing. Look back at all the times you lost your peace over something really small. Somebody who just happened to be in a rush and pushed you out of the line. A colleague who comes into work and dresses in a way that you don't think they should have dressed. How many times you're at the workplace and you're gossiping about another colleague and you pass by them and go, hey, having no idea what it's doing to my spirit and my heart. So the point that I'm making is, if we don't clean our hearts, we are so much in our way from fulfilling our God-giving agenda. We get in our way to such an extent that we don't feel satisfied with the role that we're playing. We don't feel satisfied with who we are. I came in today, this morning, and I told Antonia, I says, I had a rough day yesterday. She's like, what happened? And I said, I just feel like I'm not doing enough. I want to do more. And the more isn't just a physical more, it is a spiritual more. And I ask you to even look at your own lives. Are you doing enough? Are you being enough? Do you feel this is your ultimate? Is there a particular area in your personality, in your collective experience? Is there a particular space in your collective experience that you're still so attached to that was negative? And it's stopping you from really, really stepping into your power. Because somebody with a polluted heart cannot step into their power, because you need heart to move you. Your state of consciousness as a person gets the job done, but your body needs to move accordingly to make the agenda get completed. So you can have great ideas and you can think about good things and you can be inspired and you're ready to do it, but your organs can't move. I have these great ideas, but I won't even pick up the phone and call the person that I need to get that idea into action. Because the heart is still holding back. Like my heart's got something in it, it's holding me back. I don't believe in myself. This is just another one of my great ideas to distract me. I don't have any money. I don't have a strong support system. To be quite honest with you, I don't even know what I'm doing. But it's a good idea. And all of those feelings are in the heart, because the heart is like the part of the soul that says, I'm not qualified for this, but I have enough love to do it. How many of you have children? Hands up. Did you remember your firstborn? Did you know what to do with that little baby? No. Weren't you scared holding that child? If you remember, you were so scared that you were going to break something or drop him or her. It was like, you don't know. Right, remember? But your heart knew that, oh my God, I can't believe I just produced this. And no matter what it was, you didn't know what you were doing, but your heart knew what to do. Remember? Until you gained experience and wisdom, you're like, I got this. I could do 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20. Because you're gaining wisdom. And it didn't matter how many sleepless nights you had. It didn't matter if your husband supported you or not. This baby was love for you, and you did it. So think about what it would be like if your heart is clean. How much could you accomplish? Let that be your question for the week. If I keep my heart clean, what kind of a thought energy gets out of my way? And what will be that force that will move me into action? When our hearts are not clean, it feels like I'm carrying a burden. Because the burden is from a thought level. When will that person tell me sorry? I will never forgive them for what they did to me. And you and I know by now, the longer we hold animosity, blame, hate, despise a person, the longer we hold that energy in us, the less our fortune will find us. The less quickly our fortune will find us. It'll just take longer. Because this clump of energy is blocking that space for the fortune to come in. In the Quran, there are 99 praises of God. And I have a lot of friends who play the role of the Islamic religion. They practice Islam. And every one of them have told me the reason why Muslims continue to thank God and continue to thank God, that there's a strong belief, the more you thank God, the more wealth will find you. So move that to another culture, another religion, another dimension. The more I'm grateful, what would it be like if I really am grateful for what is working for me, for what is good for me, what would find me, what would find me. So that's why the homework is needed on the self, this truthful process. Because where there's truth, there's cleanliness. And when you're truthful, you'll be free. And when you're free, no one can trap you or bind you. You're moving too fast and too speed. You've got your own flow. Who can try to trap you unless they're really good hunters? And there are some out there. There are some hunters out there. And they will find a part in your heart where you're your weakest. And that's where they'll try to enter. And it'll always be a place in your heart where you're still not clean about your motives for existing. And that's where they trap you. And that's why it's so important for us to cultivate a clean heart. So I'd like to give you some steps to take before we leave today. Okay? The first step is what I shared earlier. Use this word in everything you do. Truthfulness. Be truthful in your thinking. And it doesn't mean it's a public truth. Well, I'm just telling you my truth, how I feel. I'm not talking about that part. Here's the crux of truthfulness. Be truthful with the thoughts you don't want anyone else to see. Be truthful with the thoughts you don't want anyone else to see. Got it? When you're truthful with the thoughts that you don't want anyone else to see, that part of you that you're hiding from the world, get ready to fasten your seatbelt. That's the real you. That part of you that you're hiding from the world, it is the real you, at least in this incarnation, at this point in your life, until you decide to change that. So when you apply truthfulness to that part of you that is your private part, it is then that your second step now, it's then that you can invite the energy of God's purity to accompany you. Let God be your confidant, the one you can truly turn to for everything, who you're not afraid to show everything about you to. So here's my introduction of God to you. Despite whatever your religious beliefs are, please hold them to be true for you. All I'm asking you to do is to add on your interpretation of God as a pure, benevolent, qualitative energy into your interpretation of God. So for now, whether I'm Jewish, Hindu, Christian, Muslim, even an agnostic, now my interpretation of God is, this is an energy, and it's a very pure thought energy that only bestows love, wisdom, peace, purity, joy. So here's how it looks. Step 1, you're applying truthfulness to that part of you that you're hiding from the world. Step 2, you're inviting the energy of God to be a companion next to you, because maybe we're not always strong to see our true story by ourselves. And it just feels better to have companionship. So we invite the energy of God as our confidant. Whenever you finish, I'll move on to step 3. So you feel like when you've invited God's energy with you, next to you, you'll feel as if, when we were teenagers, or when we were in trouble with our parents and your best friend was next to you and it just was fine. Whatever you were going through, your buddy was there, it was okay, it was going to be okay. Even if mom or dad, grounded you for 2 months, you went to your best friend, can you believe she grounded me just because I came home late? But your friend next to you gave you that comfort. Do you remember? So the energy of God's presence in my private part of my being is giving me the comfort needed to develop the courage to clean out my heart. Because I'm not alone. That's why meditation is such an important practice. And the third step I'd like you to do, and this is so important, and I cannot stress how important this is for all of us sitting here today. I want you to act, however small the action is. When you come out of that place, if you want to come out of the place, let's say I'm just sitting and I'm having a moment. I'm looking at myself honestly. And I have my confidant with me, God's energy with me. And it's all mental. And I'm in my meditation, or I'm in my prayer, or I'm in my reflection, and it's all mental, and it just stays there, but nothing happens to me. And then somebody calls me. Or in 15, 20 minutes, I'm in another mode. It can shift, and I can go totally out of it as if I was never there. That's why it is essential that when you begin to emerge from that place, all I'm asking you to do, go into whatever action it is, but coming from that place of appreciation, acceptance, the courage that you felt, the sincere feeling of transformation that you might have felt in a minute, in whatever second you felt that feeling like you really were heard by yourself and God. It can be as simple as moving your shirt from the couch that's been sitting there for a whole week and you knew you should have picked it up a week ago. It could be a simple act to go to your car, to go to work, or to go to your next meeting, or your next party, or to go visit a friend, or to go to the mall. And that's the practice I really need you to understand the importance of. Bring that sacred experience that you received into action. Don't separate your mystical experience of truth. Don't separate it from your actions. Don't become so action-oriented that you forget the sacred experience you just had 15 minutes ago. In other words, bring it forth. And if you make that a consistent practice, it will eventually become your natural nature. When I was a teenager, I went to an etiquette school. And in that school, they taught you how to walk as a woman. They taught you the kind of shampoo you should use on your hair. They taught you the kind of conversations that you have at parties. And they taught you how to sit and how to eat and how to have proper manners at a dinner table. And I learned that because they ingrained it in you and they kept repeating it over and over again in you, that when you were a young girl growing up, that was the way you behaved, and that's how you took yourself, because they kept training you to be like this. So if you keep training yourself to remember being truthful in your thought form to that place that you hide from the world, and you invite your confidant next to you, God, to comfort you and to give you those subtle vibrations of power. And every time you are having that mystical experience, don't separate it from an act. I tell you, it's as simple as the way you get out of a chair is an action. So do I take that mystical experience with me as I surface from my chair? And that will support more of your truthful conversation with yourself. And if you do this on a day-to-day basis, you will find that your heart is becoming cleaner and cleaner every day, because you're taking care of yourself at the most deepest of level that no human being has been able to And so you're cleaning that part out. Because when it comes to the cleansing of the heart, it isn't an ego declaration. Well, I've just forgotten them, so forget them. Oh, I'll just let it go. But when the person services, your heart still goes like this. Or when the person comes in front of you, you still shrink inside, even though you're smiling. Hey, how you doing? I can't stand that person. You know, that's where, that's not it. Then that's not cleanliness of heart. And every time that energy builds in us, we're in our own way of God really using us and our power really calling us to power. So that's why this conversation was important for me to offer you today, because there is no room for resentments anymore. Everything is happening to us and for us to turn inwards and be honest with, what role did I play here? Many of us have gotten married, and at the beginning it seemed so easy. And then in the middle it seemed so hard. And if you kind of investigate and look, what is it that this marriage is trying to show me? You will find that it's trying to show me to emerge my truth, what I believe in as a person, rather than to keep compromising my joy for someone else. Now that doesn't mean I leave that person. That doesn't mean I leave him or her. But it means as much as I don't like the way this person is treating me as a partner, then what power do I need to bring up in me? Because I keep compromising my power for this person. And it's still not giving me what I want. Then we develop resentment in our marriages, in our relationships with one another. And it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. And that's why I bring you back to step 1, step 2, and step 3. Now the last thing before closing, be very patient. Because we're in a society and a culture, we see a Domino's commercial, we pick up the phone in 1 minute, it's at the house in 15 minutes. This is not going to happen to our souls. As much as we'd like it to, it's not going to happen that way. So the virtue of patience will be needed for all of us to be able to cultivate other qualities and virtues like faith, trust, determination, acceptance, appreciation. You can see so many things come if I just am patient. Our egos will force us to be perfect tomorrow, and it says, but you haven't even enjoyed the journey. And so the ego will force us to be there. So those are my treasures that I have gotten from the Supreme above that I want to share with all of you. On a personal note, there's a part of me that's very optimistic because I know my lifestyle is supporting continuity, the establishment of a good world, the establishment of good people. I know that my choices are cultivating individuals that are pure at heart. And I also know that there's another dimension going on that is self-destructive and isn't taking care of itself. So it keeps generating a lot of chaos. So that energy of chaos is also signaling to me, have you become strong enough to be the change agent that you were meant to be? So as impactful as the chaos gets, and as you can see, the chaos is expanding and spreading more and more and more, we're going to find ourselves kind of feeling either very isolated in a corner and scared and anxious, powerless, angry, weak, weak. And we're going to feel like we want to run and hide somewhere else, something else has to be better than this. This husband, there has to be a better husband, there has to be a better wife, there has to be a better job, there has to be a better country, there has to be a better government, there has to be something better than this. And everywhere you turn, you're hearing the same problems. And you get even more scared. Because everything we're seeing is physical. And the more we invest in the physical world, the more our fear increases in the spirit. Because the physical world is now very dirty, very polluted. So if that's touching my heart, and my heart is getting polluted, and my fear is increasing, then I'm not strong. That's why I think it is so important for you to invite the confidant of God's energy into you now, into your world, more than ever before. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. And the only thing that we have available right now is the connection between the soul, I, the soul, and God, the Supreme Soul, my confidant. I don't have anything else available that can protect me. And it feels as if the age that we're being forced into, especially as Americans, the age that we're being forced into is the age of spirituality. To pay attention to my inner being, to care for my spirit, to love my spirit, to make my spirit more powerful. Either you do it out of love, which we had, or we do it out of tragedy, which we have. So you either choose love to make you powerful, or you choose tragedy to make you powerful. You choose. I won't love. So thank you for being so gracious in listening. If there's anything in your heart that you'd like to ask, or if you'd like us to just go into a meditation, we can do that. I understand that. I totally can resonate with it as well. The conversation was, I have a little conflict about karma. You know, do I really have to accept that the situation I'm in is because of something I've done in my past? And how much longer do I have to deal with that, you know? I've sometimes been very concerned about responding to that, because I know each of us are just emotionally at a different place of receiving it. What I'd like to share is that there is a universal law that exists. There is a law of physics that exists. What goes around comes round. The law of cause and effect exists. And I've seen stories of today where individuals have done something horrific to a person or even a society. When you look at certain world leaders that have done awful things to their countrymen, the genocides or the lack of giving them economic opportunity so they can just have basic bread and water to eat, that I ask myself, how could they exit that world without any consequence in the soul? I just ask myself, how could they depart free, as if nothing happened? When all the vibrations of, but also my creation of good karma needs to take place at that deep place too, because that's really who I am. So when a lot of these situations come to us with money, people, health, mental state, is that it's all of my agendas, all the things that I've been through is being sort of sealed in that area, in my being, in the soul. So when I'm seeing the way someone's treating me, and I've done everything I can possibly do to make this relationship work, but they ain't gonna have it, I'm like, what is it? Why can't they seem to get out of my field or my vortex? Because we've done everything intellectually, but we haven't addressed the place that we're really hiding in terms of really how I feel about this relationship and what I want from this relationship. So that's why the quicker I can accept that what I'm going through, okay, I don't need to find out all the reasons why I am where I am. I am there. Now, if the way I can get out of it is to follow 1, 2, and 3 step, because I haven't tried that step, then let me give it a shot and see if I can clear out that karmic energy as a vibration, that it somehow doesn't come to me anymore. So then I look at it from that perspective. Do you understand? So I don't blame myself for everything I've been through. I'm like, it's what it is. You know, we can go back and find out a whole bunch of reasons why it's happening, but then we'll get lost from the real purpose of the solution. Okay? So when you're struggling with karma, also recognize that there's an opportunity to create a lot of pure good karma that is also a part of the learning curve when I'm going through struggling or pain with a relationship or a situation. There's a particular quality or virtue that's also emerging, an opportunity that is emerging at a very deep level. Okay? All right, any other thoughts? Okay, great. So let's have a few moments of reflection and silence. And whatever it was that was shared with you today that you felt was helpful for you, bold it, look at it, think about it. Maybe after the program's over, feel free to enter into the quiet room and sit. It's the room we call our room of our confidant. And then we sit there. You can write a letter, journal, put your real self in front of your confidant, and then just move throughout the space with that sincere feeling. And as you go downstairs and drive home very slowly and very safely, just take your time and just try to get into this new rhythm so that we can feel protected at a deeper level inside.